All right, let's just dive right into this. Today we are unpacking a really fascinating, highly provocative text titled Only Communism Can Save Humanity. But right off the bat, I want to establish our exact focus for this explainer.
生成的所有视频和奥影内容来自于生命禅院 Life 禅院创始人雪峰。
That means all the source content we're analyzing today comes directly from Xu Feng, the founder of Life Shan. He's proposing a complete, radical restructuring of human society to save it from impending collapse. It's a genuinely bold text, and honestly, whether you lean left, right, or somewhere completely in the middle, unpacking the actual mechanics of his argument is just incredibly interesting. So let's get into it.
Here is our roadmap. First, we'll cover the 3 dilemmas of capitalism. Second, what exactly is Xu Feng-style communism? Third, we'll uncover his 7-year utopian experiment. And finally, his plan on how to transition peacefully.
Let's start with Section 1, the 3 dilemmas of capitalism. Now, Xu Feng doesn't just bash capitalism right out of the gate. He actually gives it a lot of credit. He notes that without it, we simply wouldn't have modern civilization, and it's literally the reason we can feed over 7 billion people today. But, and it's a massive but, he argues that capitalism has reached a fatal breaking point. He sees it as totally trapped in 3 insurmountable crises: wildly unfair wealth inequality, severe resource depletion, and the foundational reinforcement of human greed.
To put that first crisis into perspective, just think about the global wealth distribution numbers from 2015 cited in the text. The top 1% of the global population owned roughly 48% of the wealth. Meanwhile, the bottom 80% of humanity had to share just 5.5%. Xu Feng argues that a structure like this doesn't just fail, it actively breeds crime, jealousy, violence, and profound social instability. It's a systemic issue that simply cannot self-correct.
Then we hit a truly staggering figure: 25%. When detailing the second crisis, resource depletion, the text highlights that the United States, which has less than 4% of the global population, consumes 25% of the world's resources. Xu Feng points out that if the entire globe actually tried to adopt this exact standard of living, we would literally need 5 Earths to sustain it. The math just doesn't work out.
And to hammer home this third dilemma, Xu Feng aligns his argument with a rather dire warning from the late theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking, who said human selfishness could destroy humanity within 200 years. Capitalism's whole foundation, Xu Feng argues, is self-interest and infinite desire. This relentless, endless pursuit of wealth is the core driver of overdevelopment, climate change, and environmental destruction. If left unchecked, this inner selfishness will, quite literally, destroy our planet.
Which brings us to Section 2. What is Xu Feng-style communism? So what is the fix for these overlapping existential crises? Well, the author explicitly warns us, do not judge his proposal based on past historical models. He stresses very clearly that his vision is fundamentally different from the methods of Marx, Lenin, or Mao. There is absolutely zero violent revolution here, no forced wealth redistribution. Instead, it is a distinct, non-violent lifestyle model prioritizing inner spiritual purification over political upheaval.
He defines Xu Feng-style communism not just as some dry economic system, but as a universal value and a spiritual faith. The ultimate goal? To completely dissolve everything that divides us. We're talking racial discrimination, religious conflict, national borders, and this endless cycle of consumption. All of it replaced by a system intentionally designed to achieve true human happiness and absolute harmony with nature. Moving on to Section 3. Uncovering the 7-year utopian experiment.
Now you might be wondering, is this all just abstract theory? Actually, no. To test this out, his community instituted some incredibly radical rules during a real 7-year experiment. They completely abolished marriage, traditional family structures, private property, and even internal money. They practiced free love, claiming a 0 STD rate and high social harmony. And get this, to prevent little cliques from forming and to avoid what they called aesthetic fatigue, members had to pack up and move to a totally new location every 3 years. When you actually look at the logistics of the experiment, the claimed environmental benefits are massive. Think about a typical capitalist society, where you might see roughly 1 car for every 4 people. While in the Xu Feng community, extremely high-level resource sharing allowed 150 people to comfortably share just 5 cars. Overall, they reported achieving a very high quality of life while consuming only 25% of the resources required by the standard societal baseline.
And the health outcomes? Astounding!
Xu Feng reports that thanks to optimized communal living, zero pollution, and strictly organic farming, their average medical expenditure was practically non-existent. We're talking less than 200 RMB per person per year. That is roughly $30. Under these optimal low-stress conditions, their stated target lifespan is up to 120 years, eventually passing away naturally without disease.
But maybe the most surprising part? Despite all this highly structured communal living, there was a profound lack of hierarchy. They had absolutely zero administrative leaders, no bosses, no forced orders. They didn't even celebrate individual birthdays, just natural holidays like the Spring Festival. There were no religious rituals. Funerals were super simple, ashes scattered in nature, no graves. And crucially, it was entirely voluntary. Members had full internet access and could literally leave whenever they wanted. The whole system ran entirely on voluntary labor and following the way of nature. Which brings us to Section 4, How to Transition Peacefully.
Having laid out this massive, radical blueprint, how on earth does Xu Feng propose the entire world safely transition to this without total chaos? Interestingly, his roadmap is incredibly gradual. He's not calling for a global, overnight revolution. The plan starts with small, government-sanctioned experimental zones, maybe just 1 to 3 per country. He wants governments and the UN to guide this. The model only expands if it actually proves successful, and they just patiently wait until 50% of the globe voluntarily decides to opt in.
He actually addresses capitalists directly in the text, which is fascinating. He promises that this movement will never seize their assets by force. He basically says, keep running your businesses. The model just waits for them to voluntarily join once they witness the community firsthand. The idea is that they'll eventually realize this lifestyle offers superior safety, stability, and a kind of profound self-actualization that money simply cannot buy.
But, and this is the absolute linchpin of this entire explainer, the text makes it incredibly clear that absolutely none of this structural change works without a profound internal shift. Anyone joining has to undergo what he calls a spiritual purification. Because if we don't cure our foundational human flaws, the laziness, the greed, the selfishness, we just won't survive in a communal setting. It essentially challenges us to unlock our inner truth, goodness, and love as the actual, real drivers of human progress.
So based entirely on Xu Feng's writings, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Think about it. Are the massive global challenges we face today simply logistical problems of resource management, or are they, at their very core, a reflection of our own unexamined inner greed? It is a huge question about human nature and our collective future. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating source material with me today.